Hey you guys, welcome back to the channel. It is your girl Alana Simone. So first of all, I wanted to welcome you guys in. If you're new to the channel, welcome in. If you've been here for a while, welcome back. So today we're going to be talking about church hurt. And you know, this topic really can be very interesting for many different reasons because I feel like everybody has their own opinion on it. And you know, truth of the matter is, I feel like there's really nobody I've ever met in life that hasn't been hurt by the church. And you know, I feel like a lot of people talk amongst themselves about it, but not really too many people are open about it. But I feel like we need to be more open about it because why? It's a real thing that happens. And we don't realize how many people each day or each month or whatever the case may be constantly gets hurt by the church. And in result, they turn away from God because of, you know, what happened and whatever caused them that hurt. And so, you know, I wanted to talk about that today because it's important. And, you know, everybody has their own stories. And I feel like everybody who's ever been hurt, it's all happened many different ways. But we have to know that we have to be comfortable with start addressing it. Because why? It's a real thing that happens more often than we think. And oftentimes people shy away from it because they don't want to get into this type of discussion. They don't want to offend people. They don't want to, you know, speak up because why? Sometimes people can be fearful and afraid because, you know, depending on the type of situation that they were in, it could be scary to speak up. It can be fear. You can feel afraid to speak up because you feel like if you speak up that people will just judge you, condemn you, get mad at you and upset with you. But that's really so sad, and we don't realize that so many people are living in a prison. They're living in a prison within themselves of so much hurt that has been caused by the church. And it's really unfortunate. It's really sad because ultimately, you know, yes, these things happen to us. And a lot of times the hurt happens in church, but we can't keep on letting these things deter us away from God because we have to learn how to separate the church's actions and humans' actions from God, who God truly is. Because, you know, oftentimes, especially if we go to church, we start putting like we make it their responsibility to, and that it becomes a dependence that we feel like that it's going to church is depending on our relationship with God, and that's not the case. With or without church, we can have a relationship with God. Church is just a building that we have created as man to gather around in, but the real church is really outside of the church. It's going to different people you meet on the street. It's showing kindness, it's showing love, it's expressing these things. And so oftentimes people feel like we can only get church in a building, but that's not the case. Church is so much more than we can ever imagine and think. And so oftentimes we get so confined in thinking that church is just a building and it's, you know, people in suits, people with titles, people who constantly judge people, because that's the truth. I feel like the most judgmental people we'll find is in the church. And, you know, people really like to, you know, go back and forth with that. But the truth is what it is. Like, the most judgmental people I've ever met has been in the church. And that's a fact. And so, anyway, we have to realize that the church is not it. Like, don't get me wrong, there are so many great churches out here that actually represent God how he's supposed to be represented and actually exemplify the love of Christ and do what they're supposed to do. But there's a lot of churches who abuse and misuse the word of God, and also they misrepresent God. And so ultimately these churches end up turning a lot of people away, and it really makes you not even want to go to church. Like, why would you want to go to church if you know that you're constantly going to be judged, if people are constantly going to gossip and talk about you, if people are constantly going to condemn and cast you out because you're not fitting this image that they have created? You know, because the image that the man has created is not the image that God has created. It's a man-made image that they're trying to put us in, but ultimately this is not the image that God sees us in and wants us in. And so we have to learn how to separate ourselves from that, because why? Once we separate ourselves from church, the church that man has made, then we can become free. Then we can really see God for who he is and realize he's not like what these people are exemplifying. You know, because one thing about people is they love to make up things. They love to add on things. They love to do everything but what is written. So they say, okay, so this is what it says in the Bible of how we're supposed to act and how we're supposed to be and how we're supposed to treat people. But, I don't like this part, so I'm going to change this. Oh, I don't like how, God said this, so I'm going to do it this way. And, he said that people can come as they are, but I don't really know if people can come in my church, in my building like that. So, I'm going to make this rule where you only can wear skirts, you only can wear a suit and tie, you only can, sit next to certain people. I'm going to make these rules up. But nowhere does God have these rules written down, but magically they appear. And magically people are telling you to do something that you're trying to figure out where they're getting this from. And ultimately where they're getting it from is their own head and their own agendas. And so we have to realize that most of this stuff is made up from people. And so, oftentimes we get stuck at being so hurt, but we have to replace that hurt and replace it with the truth, because truth is God is not like this. Truth is God says, come as you are. He doesn't want you to be fixed up, made pretty, everything. He wants you to come as you are. Come in your brokenness, come in your pain, come in your addiction. Because why? He's saying cast your cares on him so that he can make you free and that he can give you a new life and transform you from the inside out. And so ultimately, we don't even get to experience the true transformation that God has for us, because there's so many people, that church people, that want to be God and they're not. And so we need to understand that people are not God. God is God by all himself. And so we really need to understand that the idea of God just being in a church building is not the case. There's so much more to God and his power than just to be stuck in a building. Because why would he just want us to be in a building all that stuff? We need to go out and reach people. We need to go out and touch people. We need to go out and be the hands and feet of Christ. Because why? He wants us to go out into the world. He wants us to set captives free. He wants us to pull people out of darkness. He doesn't want us to constantly cast people away because they don't fit the image that man created. He doesn't want us to be like, oh, well, you can't come to my church because this is a family church and only family can come here. So if you're not family, I'm sorry, we can't open the doors to you. Or, no, you're going to come in like that. You're going to come in with a little mini skirt and a shirt showing your cleavage, and you expect God to love you? No, you can't come into this church. We don't accept you. Oh, you're a different race? Oh my God, no. We only accept people of color in this church. Oh no, it'd be stuff like that. Where does this come from? This comes from man. But this is real life examples of what people experience that we don't even know. And oftentimes people don't talk about it, but you see how crazy it sounds, because it's because I look a certain way, because I'm a certain color, because I talk a certain way, because I'm not the ideal picture of what you have created in your head for me to be. Now I can't be accepted by God? No, that's not the case. I may not be accepted into your church, but I'm gonna be accepted by God regardless. Because why? We have to understand we're not defined and we're not defined by the acceptance of man and being accepted by a church building. We're accepted by God directly, and that's his acceptance coming from a direct relationship with him. A relationship with him does not require us to go to a church. It doesn't require us to look a certain way. It doesn't require us to be a certain color. It doesn't require us to be anything but ourselves. And that's one thing I love about God, is that he desires for us to be free. He desires for us to just come to him as we are and not feel like we have to be confined by people and man's rule. Because in his church, he accepts us for who we are. He accepts us no matter what we look like, no matter how we speak, no matter how we dress. He accepts us for us. And so, that's been one of the most freeing things that I had to learn. Like, back through my journey with Christ, like, I've followed Christ ever since I was young, and he's really been leading me and guiding me and setting me apart. But he really showed me how important it is to not be tied down by just church. Like, church is good, and I feel like it's very beneficial, especially to build a foundation. And I feel like that's a lot of where my foundation has come from, like believing in God and all that stuff. But ultimately, the most I've gotten out of my relationship with God was taking a journey by myself, and ultimately pulling back from church, because I feel like in church you feel confined. You feel like you're constantly being judged, or like you are constantly not measuring up to a standard that man has created. But once I set myself free and broke free from the bondage and the foolery that happens in church, I got to see something different. I got to see God for who he was, and see that he accepts me no matter what. He loves me no matter what. And his grace is so sufficient. And oftentimes people don't even get to experience it. Why? Because they've been so hurt by people in the church. And so we need to feel more comfortable with addressing this. We need to feel more comfortable with expressing the pain and the hurt that we go through, because it's a real thing, and we don't realize that souls are at stake. We're constantly losing people because of man's action. And so many people are like, they don't even want to step foot in a church building. Why? Because they've heard other people's stories of how they've been hurt, and they're like, oh, I don't even want to experience that. People who never even got a chance to believe in God and seek God for themselves, they sometimes don't even have the opportunity, because why? They heard from somebody else that this place is not good. I wouldn't recommend going there. So many people have been turned away from church. So many people haven't even had the opportunity to experience God, because why? Church has been given us such bad rep, and it's very unfortunate. And it's very sad, because we're supposed to be people who accept and love people. We're supposed to be people who pray for people and speak life into people, despite people's circumstances, despite if they don't fit the ideal picture of what we think, people are supposed to be like. We often forget that we once started somewhere, that most of the church people weren't these perfect individuals that they tried to make themselves out to be. They usually were sinners who gave their life to Christ and now living for Jesus every second of the day. But then they forget the grace that was given to them. They forget how God saved them from their mess, despite how they looked, what they were going through. They forget that. They all of a sudden become these perfect people that forget the grace that was once extended to them. And so it's very unfortunate, because if we choose to remember the grace that was extended to us, and knowing that we weren't perfect, that we messed up, that we, sometimes did not follow everything that God intended us to follow, that we are not perfect, then maybe we can start reaching more people. Maybe people will start listening more. Maybe people will want to come to our church if we invited them. But if we continue to be these people that make ourselves seem like we're perfect, to make ourselves seem like we've never sinned a day in our life, to make ourselves feel like we are these like special creatures that God only chose us, then we'll never reach the people we need to reach. We'll never help transform the lives we need to transform. We'll never be able to be fully used by God to set people free. Because if we can't die to ourselves and die to our own flesh and realize we're not perfect, then how can we expect God to, help us reach any other person? Nobody can relate to a perfect human being. Nobody can relate to someone who has it all together. They can relate to people who are real. They can relate to people who have struggled. They can relate to people who can speak the truth. So, I really, really hope that this video can make you think. It's really sad how many people get hurt by the church, and it's really unfortunate, and it's really sad. And I really hope that, and pray that if you've been hurt by the church, that you can find it in your heart to give God a try again. If you've been hurt and you really turned away from God, and you really was like, you know what, God, if your people are like this, I don't know if I can believe you. I don't know if you're really real. If you have people who represent you, who treat me like this, I don't know if I can believe in somebody like that. I really understand and feel your pain, and I hear where you're coming from, because, anybody who has been judged or turned away for trying to seek help, that wasn't right for them to do that. So I really am sorry on behalf of those people who, did these things to you. But I really pray today that you can give God a second chance, that you can give him another chance, that you can open your heart again to receive the love that your Father has for you. Because one thing about God is he sees what these people do. He's in every situation in our life. And just because we never acknowledge the hurt and pain that people have caused us, God saw it and God recognized it, and he knew it wasn't right. And he knew that these people were constantly misrepresenting him. And one thing about God is he has feelings too. And just like you felt sad, he felt sad too. Just like you felt angry, he felt angry too. Just like you felt like unworthy, he felt the feeling that you felt of unworthiness. Because why? He calls you worthy. He loves you so much. And he knows that you're not perfect. And he doesn't want you to be. So really today, I hope that you can give God another chance. Really, I hope today that you can come fully as you are, not feeling judged, not feeling like you have to be perfect, not feeling like someone's going to talk about you because, you're going through something or something crazy, or just whatever, normal life. We're all human. And anybody who tries to say that they're perfect and make themselves think that they're perfect, they really got some issues within themselves. So, over here, we're not perfect. Over here, we're just trying to do our best. Well, I'm just trying to do my best, to be a good person. I'm not trying to be perfect, but I'm trying to do my best to be all of who God has created me to be and called me to be. And so he has called me to be kind. He has called me to love. He has called me to accept others as they are. And so today, I really hope that you can accept his acceptance and his love, and know that he wants a relationship with you. Despite what has happened to you in the past, despite the circumstances that you've been through, he really loves you and wants to connect with you. So you guys, church hurt is a real thing. And it's a real thing that most people don't talk about, but it really needs to be talked about. So I really hope that this video just, maybe set you free, maybe made you think, I don't know, just whatever you needed it to be. But just know that God loves you so much, and just know that you're not the only one who feels that way. Like, we've all experienced church hurt, but we can experience it, but we have to forgive and know that we can move on and still continue a relationship with God. So you guys, I thank you so much for being here. I really, really hope this video encouraged you today, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.